If we have to keep going down this road for a year, like she's walking the plank. I mean, it's terrible. This is not good. She needs to stop. She has to stop.
What is the next 5 years of?
I mean, she's heading for failure. If she's surrounded by a bunch of people who are equally delusional, who, you know, we're just saying, yes, you're right, Blake. Yes, you're right. That's it's going to bury her.
This is Vanessa Santos of Renegade PR, and she is a major consultant. And Vanessa, I had you on the day after Baldoni filed his first lawsuit, a month and a half, 2 months ago. So much has happened since then. I mean, what? Did you have any idea when I had you on here that this thing was going to blow up like this?
No. And truly, I am so shocked that there is still such an appetite for it.
Let me ask you a question as a publicist, someone who does PR and has been in this game for years. I don't see personally any way that Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds can get out of this now. I just don't think that moving forward, I don't think that they have a case. I think it's just going to be Chinese water torture from now until after this trial actually takes place. If it is, it does not seem like the attorney for Justin Baldoni, he's giving off signals that because Justin Baldoni has now been labeled a predator, they're going to expect an apology, I think, or they were going to go to and money, but an apology, or they're going to go to trial. So here's my kind of maybe crazy question for you. I still think Blake Lively needs to just apologize, suck it up, and go away for a while. Is that just crazy from a PR perspective? Like, would any publicist ever tell her to actually come clean, throw yourself at the mercy of the court of public opinion, so to speak, come up with some explanations, you know, for why you were out of your mind? My father had died, blah, 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 blah. I don't care, whatever. And then say, I'm going to go away for a while and just let things die down. Can she just not do that?
I think that, you know, it would be wise for her to find some way to just say, look, you know what, I'm putting my hands in the air. We were on different pages, you know, maybe not even just fully admit that she was wrong, but, you know, like a lot of the stuff that I'm reading.
White flag.
Yeah, right. Like, let's just call it and, you know, whatever. But, you know, a lot of the stuff that, you know, you had sent me this morning to read, including the recognition of religious and cultural differences. I mean, I think that these are off ramps. Like there are off ramps that she can take to kind of gracefully exit this, you know, hole that she's really dug herself, but she's not doing it. And I think that, you know, part of it, yes, it's this, you know, culture that we're kind of in, this media culture where it's like, we don't apologize, we don't back down, yada, yada, yada. But also I think that she is surrounded by yes men and people who are really continuing to play into this delusion. And I also think that, you know, I think that Ryan and Blake both know they're in trouble, not only because of the SNL appearance, which was totally awkward and strange.
By the way, was that terrible? Was that bad from a PR perspective?
I think that if it was Ryan alone, I don't think it would have been bad, but I think it looked really weird with Blake sitting there. And I don't know if it was part of, you know, the shtick that they were doing, but she's sitting there, you know, looking at him and she didn't crack a smile. You know, she had a strange look on her face. I thought it was odd. And I thought that it seemed tense. And I know that it was supposed to be a joke, but I thought it was odd. I thought her facial expressions were odd sitting there, and the way that she stayed seated looking up at him was strange. And I thought it was strange.
Don't you think it's the wrong message to send people who might be on the fence because look,
it's not funny.
Exactly. It shows that like you're out there, you're looking beautiful, your hair blowing in your blonde tresses blowing in the wind, and then you're laughing it up with movie stars and with your husband, and then he does a skit about it, SNL. It seems like then this ain't bothering you very much, lady. And I think that tells the public that this woman is out to lunch, or she's faking this, or she's just so like high and mighty and above it all that it doesn't face. None of these are good things to be projecting. She should be projecting that she is being put through hell and that it's unjust. And all she was trying to do was stand up for her. She needs to be like pitiful, doesn't she?
Yeah, I mean, you would think that would be part of the strategy. I mean, to me, what it looked like was her and Ryan are still so high above Justin, and they're so in the it crowd. And, you know, it just exemplified more of this like David versus Goliath situation I think that Justin is in. It just showed like, you know, yep, And yeah, reminder, Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds are the stars enough to be in the SNL 50. I mean, it just solidified, I think, what we all, know is true with this case, which is like, Justin is the clear underdog here.
It's like they're trying to do some kind of like real sort of standard PR thing of like, well, we just need to get back in the game and go out there and do some things where we look good or we connect or we show we're still in the Hollywood it crowd. To me, that's what I think they were trying to do with the SNL thing, is like they wanted people to see that, like, the king and queen, so to speak, we're here, damn it. We're still being invited to these things. We're still showing up. We're still having a grand old time or whatever.
I was trying to catch up, and, you'll have to maybe explain this to me a little bit, but I was trying to understand the Jenny Slate story.
So basically what's breaking today is that, as you said, Blake Lively had mentioned that there were a couple of other women who had some kind of harassment or toxic workplace allegations or complaints that they had made about Justin Baldoni and Wayfarer. And so what is coming out today, basically leaked to some outlets, but I do think that it's credible, is that one of these women was Jenny Slate, and that apparently her complaint was not about Baldoni, but was about his best friend and another producer and a guy who's head of Wayfarer, the studios, that he gave Jenny Slate $15,000 because she did not like her apartment, had issues with it, wanted to relocate, but there was a $15,000 security deposit. So we're talking a nice fucking apartment here, but whatever. And so apparently Jamie Heath and the company, it wasn't just him, but the company gave her, because they were producing the film, right? Gave her $15,000 so she could get out of it. And Jamie Heath said to her something along the lines of, because I know motherhood is sacred. And he talked about how really important it was. And that's why they were doing this, whatever. So apparently this, in some sort of woke feminist way, either made her uncomfortable, or more likely Blake Lively, who was scheming behind the scenes to turn the cast against him and turn these women against him, probably heard that and was like, you know how women are, like, oh my God, girl, that is so, please. Is that all he thinks that we are? Just wombs? Is that it? It's kind of like the congrats on your bump. Don't you want to talk about something other than my pregnancy sort of thing? Like, Blake Lively has a real chip on her shoulder about pregnancy and motherhood and stuff. Yeah. But anyway, so that's what happens basically. That's what's come out today. And it's basically looking like this whole thing, in terms of these other women, it's falling apart. I mean, as Brian Friedman commented, clearly they didn't want to be associated with this because Blake Lively was not even authorized in that amended complaint to show actual screenshots of text messages. She recreated the conversation. So it's basically, this is what Blake Lively said they said. And so now we find out these other aspects of these complaints and how they were stupid, and how Isabella Ferrer, actually there was a text that Baldoni showed from her gushing about how he had created a safe space and she felt so safe on in this environment on his set, blah 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 blah. So there ain't nothing coming out that's going to validate Blake here. I really don't think.
No, I completely agree. And the other thing too, it's almost like it's hard to even take if these texts exist, who knows if they do or don't. I don't think they do either, but these actresses on set are probably, they're working with Blake. Blake's the popular girl. She's the big star. Right. They might not even feel the way that they're feeling when they're, complaining to her or validating her complaints,
Right.
Like,
absolutely.
Right? Like, that's how women kind of work. It's
exactly.
Like, oh, Blake is the big star. Blake is the better known actress. We want to have future projects. We want to stay close to the motherhead.
Women gossip. They talk a lot of shit. They exaggerate things. They agree to stuff. Yeah.
It's like a way to bond. And
yeah.
So who knows if these conversations did happen, it might, we got to even take that with a grain of salt.
I think these women have been pushed into a corner now.
Yes. Oh, I do too. I think they're probably, even with the Jenny Slate stuff, I'm seeing that, no one's been able to reach her for comment. I'm sure that she's just sitting there like, oh gosh, like, we really have to do this. And that was the other thing, like Parker Posey appearing alongside of Blake in some of these weirdo pregnancy interviews. I don't even know which project it was from. Was it from It Ends With Us? Posey?
No, it was from the Woody Allen movie that she did.
Okay, that's right. And like I'm watching White Lotus right now, and I'm seeing Parker Posey on White Lotus, and it's like, God, I forgot that you were involved with this Blake Lively thing. Like, it just, or just on these, appearing on these interviews, being like a bitch, or sitting right next to her. She was a bitch too. And
no, Blake Lively gets women to do that, and it is that sort of sorority girl, like mean girl thing going on. And so I feel sorry, again, in a way, for some of these women. Colleen Hoover too, the author of the book.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it is. And I think you and I talked about this on the first interview that we did, but Blake, I think that it's the only way she knows how to interact. I mean, they say that, I've heard the expression that people kind of stay the age they are when they get famous. And how old was Blake when she got Gossip Girl? I mean, she was a kid, and she was a bratty teenager. And looking back at how she treated Leighton Meester in some of those interviews was brutal and crazy and cruel. And for me though, as a mom, and I have 2 babies, and I had a big bump walking around, and I loved kind of getting the attention of being pregnant. I thought it was fun because I was so proud of it. And when you are confirming to these people that you're pregnant, and then you're going on these interviews, acting like it's cruel for them or rude for them to bring it up. I mean, that is just really awkward. And that to me is just a sign of somebody who kind of gets off on people squirming and feeling like shit. And I think that's very traditional mean girl behavior. And I think that's really, it's been really gross.
I wanted to ask you, I got you off track though. My apologies. We were talking about the white flag option and how that could be accomplished. And you were talking about Blake. And so, like, what advice would you give her then, if you had her in a room, or if she said, I'm hiring you, why would you even want this client at this point?
I do love my troublemakers, I have to admit.
Dude, if Blake Lively's listening, we can help you. No, my viewers are gonna hate that. No, but seriously, what would you say? Should she do some kind of mea culpa, but sort of halfway, where she doesn't totally admit to everything?
Yes, because he is in a better position than she is, in my opinion, right now. But yeah, I mean, I think the advice that I would give her is for her to sit down, really look at what's been put out by his side at this point, and look for little reasons, little excuses, what can give her an off ramp, which to me is stuff like we're very different people. What happened on set was the result of 2 very different people with very different backgrounds who are used to different environments. And you know what, let's just, I want to call it, I want to settle. And that's how I would try to just, figure it out, because the road she's going on right now with trying to drum up different actresses who, he said, she said, and trying to make it so that she puts herself in a position of, if people say that I'm a liar, they're also saying that all these other co-stars are a liar. Right. I just think it's messy. I think it's too messy. I mean, she's heading for failure. And I think she should identify that. But if she, again, like I said before, if she's surrounded by a bunch of people who are equally delusional, who who are just saying, yes, you're right, Blake, yes, you're right, that's bad, and that's it's going to bury her, and it is.
How do you think, if she were to do some kind of mea culpa or try to settle, and it seems like Justin Baldoni's team, his side, is going to demand something where she takes some fault, and she also declares that he was not a sexual predator or what have you. How does she explain why she has gone after him the way she has, but then also not look like a totally horrible person? I guess what I'm saying is, it's one thing to say, well, there was a misunderstanding, or I read signals from him wrong, or I was stressed out or tired or whatever. But how does she explain? And then we decided to file this complaint, and that then got picked up, we knew, by the media, and would cancel him and stuff. Is there any way to explain that, or she just can't? How does she get out of the fact that she did this really aggressive stuff? That kind of has to be explained, right?
Yeah, and I think that there's actually a lot that she can point to. I mean, look,
really,
starting first with the content of the book, it is emotional. It is, and it's an emotional job to be on set, to be somebody who is the victim of a physically abusive and emotionally abusive relationship. That right there, could be a reason for her to say, look, I took a lot of stuff out of context. this was a very emotionally draining acting job for me. And I took a lot more home, I think, than maybe you realized. So I think one, there's that. Two, her father had just died.
Right.
What girl with a good relationship with her father is not going to be severely jolted by that? Three, she had just given birth.
Right.
Yeah. Right. So, and I really think that there's a lot there that also could be the reasons why she did go as hard as she did on him. Like, there might be a lot more going on that she doesn't even realize emotionally because of what she's dealing with.
Right.
So I think that really, like, if I'm advising her, it's going to be just air it all out. Just say everything you've been going through, just put it all out there, issue a public apology or a half apology where it's like, look, I think that maybe I did take a lot of this too far because of some stuff going on in my life. Yeah. Right. So, and look, like, look, I think that she looks, if we have to keep going down this road for a year, like, it's like she's walking the plank. I mean, it's just, it's terrible. This is not good. She needs to stop. She has to stop.